city. You and James are running it?
Yeah, they're doing their Facebook Live, and then I can, if they need to be.
And then report card, I want to report card on the channel. You know, you'll be fine. You like.
Don't have anything on
So, you know, that's the one thing, so we'll talk about it. I didn't know if it was he said that. I didn't know it was like a collaboration. I'm just saying that's where I got the info from, that you all, you, okay.
And there's gonna be more.
Just hurry up, book.
They're not official. So,
I'm assuming like all three, RBHA signed up on it. They said you guys would have that final say about if that's something that's a loss, but also the violence is right. I'm sure they told me. We got to figure it out, like the girl ladies for a little bit.
First of all, she knew you were lying.
Love to like follow them.
Like it was alright.
In the back of my head, yeah, even like once there's stuff. Okay, we're not gonna wait. I was sitting out in the back. And wires around the
you know, I mean, they want to. There's some people are. There may be the head person. But meanwhile, on your list, well, maybe more. Send me the and we'll get that ball rolling. Sorry. And make sure I don't follow the course.
But that's why I got to take drinks and I won't drink. I don't have to be
Interesting dynamic. Love it. More hate than love.
the fact you got a kid twice.
Cam.
Oh, he did. Oh.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our first quarter crime briefing. Just really quick, a couple of housekeeping notes. Want to thank you for being here first, and let you know also we're video recording this, and it will be available on our website at rba.gov/police. Under the About page, that's where you'll find it, and any citizen that wants to review it or listen to it as well. Also, on your way out, we'll hand you a data sheet that will have the details that Chief will be talking about for our crime overview for first quarter. And we'll have a time for questions at the end. If you'll please just allow 2 to 3 per person, we would greatly appreciate that. So thank you, Chief.
For coming. We'll start with some updates from, first this is the command staff, Deputy Chief Collier, Deputy Chief Pearson, Deputy Chief Stokes, and Acting Deputy Chief Elamine Jones. And here are our majors, Ronnie Armstead, Daryl Goins, Acting Major Davenport, and Acting Major John Hall. Just an update on the officer-involved shooting that occurred on March 31st, North Avenue. Today I'll be releasing the names of the officers who are involved. It's going to be Keegan Mills with 8 years of service and Jacob Torres with 6 years of service. Both officers are assigned to the 4th Precinct and are still on paid administrative leave while the investigation is ongoing. And then last night we had a pretty eventful day that I'll talk to you briefly about. We had a murder on the 17th in 3500 block of Stewart Avenue. There was a 16-year-old man or young man charged with that murder. After learning that he was wanted, a family member brought him to the Richmond Police Department headquarters here, where he turned himself in. So he was arrested yesterday. Also, we've gotten a lot of questions about an incident in Wickham Court last night. You may have seen a large police contingency there. It stemmed from officers in the 1st Precinct chased a man into an apartment in the 2500 block of Bethel Street. He had a rifle on his person. When they observed him, we set up a perimeter. While we were doing that, because of the nature of the weapon, we notified our SWAT team, who did respond. Other members of the Richmond Police Department started surrounding, asking the person to call out, come outside, and several individuals were taken out of there. Only one was charged with the original warrant. A search warrant was obtained, and 5 guns were taken from that apartment. The confusing part for the community in Wickham was that while we were at that scene in the 2500 block of Bethel, several citizens were approaching us and calling 911 saying, "You're at the wrong house, you're at the wrong house." We didn't really know what they were talking about until we learned that they were essentially telling us that there was a homicide suspect in an apartment a couple doors down. We conducted an investigation while we were on scene, obtained probable cause, and obtained a search warrant for that residence. The homicide suspect was Roderick Bugg. He was charged in relation to a murder that took place on April 9th in the 1900 block of Mechanicsville. So we did a surrounding call out. Our SWAT operators were present. We had negotiators on scene. We had even our UAV team. Federal agents from ATF and the U.S. Marshals were also present. Like I said, a very large police contingency, and we were able to bring that to a successful conclusion. Mr. Bugg chose to exit the residence before SWAT team members had to make entry and surrendered peacefully, and he has since been charged. So those are updates on last night's events that I just wanted to let everyone know. But what we're really here for is the first quarter of crime. So the good news is we're down 7% in all violent crime for the quarter. The unfortunate news is we're up in property crime, 3%. And that property crime is obviously, there's more property crimes than violent crimes by a factor of, it's only 10%. So that drove our major crime total up to 2%. Murder is up 31% for the first quarter. The number was 13 in 2022. For the first quarter, it's 17. As it stands right now, we are at 22 murders, and but we have caught up on the other side of 18 murders at this time last year. So as of today, we're 18 on 22. Still too high for me, but the percentage is not as large when we look at it right now. Rapes are down. The big trend that's driving our violent crime is commercial robberies, and we'll have some slides to talk about that in the future, but we went from 11 this time last year to 25. And like I said, we'll speak about that. But robberies, individuals are down 16%. Aggravated assaults are down 15%, which is a big number that really helped push our overall violent crime down to 7%. So here's the robbery commercials. When you look at our threshold reports, we go back to 2017. Seems like we're kind of on pace for where we were in 2017, but we're progressing on that. We've identified some links to some cases, so we think we're making progress on those investigations. And one of the things that we're really pleased about, if you remember last year when I was talking about the year-end stats, we were really down in murders. We had a significant reduction from 90 murders to 59 last year, but where we were struggling was non-fatal shootings. We're seeing a 22% reduction in the first quarter of this year with 39 non-fatal shootings from 50 over last year, so we're pleased about that. Our firearm seizures are up. So at this time last year, we're at 219, we're at 227 right now for a 4% increase in all firearm seizures. Something we've been talking about a lot previously was what are called the conversion devices, or commonly referred to as Glock switches. There are many of those in circulation. They're illegal to possess. It's considered a felony to possess them. They can be plastic or metal, and they turn a normal pistol into a fully automatic machine gun. So if you see, this is what many of them look like. Last year we seized a total of 13. We're on track right now. We already have 8 year to date. So we're gonna seize more though. We're finding them, and we think that's what drove some of our non-fatal shootings last year, where we had mass shootings, 5, 6 people shot at a time. That's where we believe some of that trend was coming from. I just want to highlight a good arrest with our federal partners from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. They released a press release. This incident took place last year, but we just came to a conclusion on it. Mr. Tyler, age 27, who lives in Fairfield Court, was manufacturing Glock switches. Our officers conducted the investigation and then notified ATF, who assisted us, and he was charged and received 3 years in a federal prison sentence, which is a good result, we feel, because he had a very minor criminal history. But if you see, this is what the officers first saw when they placed him under arrest. They look like toys on a keychain, but those are Glock conversion devices. And like I said, one of the things that we think drove the crime on non-fatal shootings were the mass shootings. So we had many incidents where multiple people were shot. For the first quarter, we've had 5 doubles and 1 triple. So that is something that's trending down for us, and we hope to continue to minimize that. Operation Red Ball. For the first quarter, here are the stats for that. They're doing really good work. 45 felony arrests, 32 misdemeanors, 12 warrant seized, and again, 39 firearms just from this one small unit. Property crime, again, this is the overall what we're struggling with. Reduction in arson, reduction in overall burglaries, an increase of 7% in all other larcenies, and an increase of 3% in auto thefts. The reason that's kind of important for us, I'll share with you a new trend that we're seeing, but it's another big number that is driving our property crime, for an overall increase of 3%. But this is what's killing us right now. So if you look at 48% of our increase from shoplifting over this time last year. So out of the 2,029 all property crimes in this first quarter, 404 of those are shoplifting. 52% of those are from ABC stores. So we're partnering with ABC. We've noticed that trend going back to last year, and certainly in this quarter. So we've conducted 7 operations to arrest shoplifters. We've partnered with ABC on those cases with their law enforcement division, and have made 5 arrests on shoplifting. It's important for us to have a comprehensive strategy to ensure that we're able to drive some of these numbers down, because it's pushing all of our crime. It's such a big number. And again, I talk about this every time we speak, theft for motor vehicles. So we're at 525 this year, 476 of those, for a 10% increase in theft for motor vehicles. Most of the times, these are unlocked cars, so we're continuing to ask the public to lock your cars. But the bigger picture, the bigger solution to it is ensuring that we're not leaving any valuables in your car, particularly firearms, and we'll talk about that right here. So we are also seeing an increase in trends in firearms being stolen from motor vehicles. And that is a 14% increase. 136 firearms are now on our streets in the first quarter from these thefts. And it's a nationwide trend. I think there was just an interesting article from the Wall Street Journal about the fact that crime guns are being left in cars. They end up in the hands of folks that aren't supposed to have them. So we're, again, imploring the community to not leave your firearms in your cars. And we have a really poignant example of that. So in this case, the 13-year-old young man that was killed on Stockton Street on March 10th, Marquand Mitchell, was killed with a firearm that was stolen out of a car 18 hours earlier, just 4 blocks away. So there's a real face to how important it is to lock your guns up, not just to not leave them in your cars, but also in your homes. And to that end, we're using some of our ARPA dollars to purchase safes, gun safes that we're going to distribute with other city partners. So we've purchased 70 of those safes. These are designed for the home to enable lawful gun owners to have quick access to their firearms. So it has a keypad on it, which you can put a code in, and then have access to it, but so your kids can't get a hold of it too. So it's something that we're trying to do, to think outside of the box, to try to help our community avoid these kind of tragedies, so that no mother has to go through what Marquand's mother had to go through. Catalytic converter theft. This is where we're trending. We're really pleased with the trend on this too. In 2022, we're at 181. We're at 62 for a 66% reduction. That's really important for us. We credit that to some arrests, but also a tactic that we employed last year with our partner Mark Smith from Richmond, Midas. So we've been spray painting catalytic converters so that it makes it harder for thieves to bring them to reputable scrap dealers. So by doing that, I think we're having an impact. Richmond Midas is still, if you make an appointment, they will still come and put your car up on a lift and spray paint the catalytic converter to try to make it harder to steal, or make it harder to sell if you do steal it. In our motor vehicle thefts. So we're up slightly with that, 1%, 226 to 223, but there is another trend that I want to talk about. Because we always used to talk about the fact that it's almost impossible to steal your car if you don't leave your keys. The majority of those are stolen with the keys, left running, or a valet key in the glove box. But this is a disturbing trend we're seeing that's also happening nationwide. So Kias and Hyundai, certain years, are vulnerable to cracking the steering column and using a USB to actually turn the car on like a key. So there's some updates that both Kia and Hyundai are working with car owners to try to minimize that ability for them to do that. But in the short term, if you own one of these cars, we would recommend having some kind of steering wheel lock, like the club, or some other steering wheel lock that can help protect your car from thieves, because they are being targeted. People know that if you break the steering column and use that, you can start it. So that's something that is obviously a concerning trend for us, and hopefully we will get some solutions from that. So overall, for major crime for the first quarter, we're up 2%. Again, as I mentioned earlier, that's largely being driven by our shoplifting, and we're taking steps to try to address that. And just going into the future, here's our core values that we implemented last year. We're trying every day to find ways to implement that and make it part of everything we do. To that end, as I've mentioned before, Richmond's part of the National Public Safety Partnership. We joined in 2021, where we are getting free training from the federal government, peer support, peer exchanges, assessments that are being done. It's a really great program. We're really proud of it, and the partnership we have with those other agencies. One of the things in this quarter we've implemented is a National Suicide Awareness for Law Enforcement Officers program. We had Safe Leo, through the National Public Safety Partnership, came to Richmond to teach our supervisors how to identify the warning signs for first responder suicide. Obviously, that's a trend nationwide, not just with law enforcement, but all folks in first responders and the military. So that's something we are teaching our officers and leaders in the organization to identify those and taking steps to try to mitigate that for us. Also, ICAP. Integrating communications, assessment, and tactics. That's a new use of force training we're putting all of our officers through starting next week. The PSP sent 2 of our officers to a conference in San Diego for Train the Trainer. This is it's modeled after police in the UK that obviously don't have firearms. So they've had to learn how to think outside the box, how to use tactics to avoid using deadly force on subjects who have weapons other than firearms. So they don't encounter a lot of people with firearms, and their officers don't usually have that option. Most police in the UK don't have firearms. So they've developed tactics and training to try to use distance, communication, and other ways to avoid using deadly force with folks who may have an edged weapon or a stick or some other weapon that could be deadly in the right hands, but But this training, we feel like, is gonna equip all of our officers to have different skills. It's scenario-based. We're gonna put each officer by the end of the year through 12 hours of this training. And it's an addition to our CIT training. So I think it's just another step that PSP helped us get to the point where we can, kind of conform with some of the best practices and some of the latest training that's going on throughout the nation. Also to the wellness end, we've hired a clinician to help our officers and civilian employees who are going through stress. This is free to them. Ms. Davis came on board at the end of last year. She's doing a fantastic job. Officers can contact her and have a session with her or do it online, and we found a lot of value to that. We're looking to, it's been so popular with our team that we're looking to hire another person. Again, Commander Anthony Jackson, we tripled the size of our peer support, sent them through all new training so that officers can help support other officers in the field and know the right things to do when they encounter folks who are struggling. Again, community response team. This is an update on them. It's still a very successful program, sworn law enforcement with clinicians going out to the community for mental health calls. So 86 calls for the quarter, 91% were connected with other resources. So we're really proud of that partnership with RBHA, and we think the whole team is doing an excellent job. It's an alternative to arrest and supporting individuals who may be in mental health crisis. Another thing that I've talked about, last year we investigated 28 fatal crashes. There were 34 total in the city of Richmond. The rest of the state police, the other 6, the state police investigated on our highways. So we started implementing a strategy of enforcement. There are a lot of sides to this to drive down the fatal crashes, but it's mostly speed and alcohol related. So for the first quarter, with this program, we've issued 70% more summonses. There's only been 4 fatal crashes during the quarter versus 7 the same time last year, so that's a big reduction. And we're constantly trying to get the message out there that we're going to start enforcing our speeding laws and distracted driving laws, and try to, through the use of locations that are part of Vision Zero and the High Injury Network, and also citizen complaints through City Council. We're identifying locations where we're going to really focus on each of the 4 precincts where we're seeing the most complaints and the high injury crashes, and enforcing speed in those locations. And again, here's some of the breakdowns of it. So 53% increase in summonses compared to the same time last year. 88% were speeding. 51% increase in equipment violations. 36% increase in moving violations, 35% increase in reckless driving, and then 28% in seatbelt violations, which again is another part of we're hoping to keep people safe by making sure they're buckling up. Another focus point is rebuilding trust and legitimacy. We're implementing monthly community walks. So for the first quarter, we were on West Avenue on January 18th. On February 15th, we're in Jackson Ward. On March 15th, we're at Fairmount and Peter Paul. Tonight, you can come out and walk with us. We're going to be on Hanover Avenue at 5 p.m. in Sector 311. Then we've got 2 more planned for Sector 411 and then back to 112. So getting out in the community when there's not crime scene tape up, when we're able to interact with folks and get to know them, I think is an important part, and we're standardizing that process. So every month, we're going to pick a new neighborhood and go out and walk and talk to the police officers and meet with our community members. And again, we're continuing with our pop-up series that was so popular last summer. Again, next week at 5 p.m. we'll be at the residence at Brookshire at 6540 Greenbank Road. That's Thursday, April 27th at 5 p.m. in Sector 211. We'll have, things for the children to do, a safe environment. We'll bring out the horses, our drone program, and some other stuff to just, again, engage our community. Some training updates. We have 2 new bomb certified technicians that we sent to the FBI Academy. They just got certified. We're really proud of Officer Peppel and Officer Golden. And the hirebacks. So we've had 17 individuals who've left us who have come back to the Richmond Police Department to wear our uniform. So we're really excited about that. We're always looking for more individuals because, as you know, staffing is a huge concern for us and police departments around the country. But we're so pleased when these folks come home, within 2 weeks, they're able to come back and get back to patrolling our streets. So here's kind of what we've got for the summer to try to address some of the violence that we're concerned about. So Operation Safe Summer, we're going to continue with our gun buyback program. The tentative date on that is June 10th, where we're going to purchase or try to buy unwanted guns back from the public. We're going to have a partnership for the first time in several years with the Virginia State Police. We're looking forward to starting that on June 10th as well. We're going to partner with other city entities to create safe places throughout the city based upon where we're seeing our shootings for midnight basketball and late night events for our youth. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to start deploying those safes. So we're going to partner with Justice Services and find ways to distribute those safes that we've purchased to families that can really use it to secure their weapons. And the other thing that I want to talk about is our retiree rehire program. So we had, a couple weeks ago, we had our first meeting where we're looking for officers who have retired from RPD but still want to serve. And they're able to come back, reset their pensions if they come back full-time, or restart in a part-time capacity. So they can come back in ways that they were unable to do previously. We're getting a lot of interest. We had 24 people, retirees, show up at our recent FAQ, and Major Goins is getting hundreds of calls. It feels like every day someone else is calling him. They're interested in coming back and serving in some capacity. So whether it's going to be patrol operations, whether it's sitting on TDO ECOs, which is a big part of our challenge for staffing, or serving in our schools, or a walking beat. There's a lot of ways retired officers can come back to the RPD and make a difference, and we're really excited about that. We should have some more news about that next week and be able to go live and start hiring those folks back. So at that point, I'm happy to answer a few questions if anyone has any.
Chief, yesterday the mayor announced that, and Tracy confirmed, that 3 conditional hires for the violence interrupter program. Can you just provide us more details about these individuals, what is left for them to actually get on the streets, and just about, I guess, maintaining their own safety, looking at the Baltimore program where 3 of their violence interrupters have been killed over the years?
Well, I think it starts about what we're going to be asking from them. So we've already had the supervisor in place for months, and we're excited about the possibility of hiring of the final stages of this process. All they need to do is complete the background check, but they have conditional offers. So I do know that there have been concerns about safety in the past. I think there's ways for us to mitigate that, but best practice around the country is for it to almost be a black box, in the sense that when we learn of concerning retaliatory behavior or information, that we share that with that group with no expectation of getting information back. There's no reciprocity there. We're just providing information on where we might see retaliation and asking them to use the contacts within the community they have to try to tamp down some of the violence. So it's not a panacea. It's not going to, I don't think it's going to solve everything we have. It's just another piece of our overall strategy to help mitigate some of the violence we're seeing.
When do you think they might start?
I would say within weeks. So we're very close. Like I said, they're already hired. We just have to finalize the background investigations, but we anticipate that within weeks.
Chief, 2 questions. One on the liquor store lifts that kind of piques my interest here. Can you talk to me? I mean, are these folks walking out with like a bottle or 2, or are they walking out with cases of liquor? And why do you suspect we're seeing that trend? That might be a dumb question. But then also on the officer-involved shooting, just want to know about the implementation of technology. I live up in that area. I was wondering if you guys use the flock camera systems to have been able to kind of pinpoint generally in the city where that suspect was before things could have got even more out of control.
To your first question, I think that we are, it may be as simple as when, just like with the theft from motor vehicles, when a thief has some success doing something, we're going to see more of it. And so I think it's building upon itself. That's why we feel like, while shoplifting may not be the biggest priority for everyone, it is for us, because we know how it can get out of control. We've seen that in other cities where people are just taking trash bags and filling up stuff. And we understand how important it is for us to identify those multiple offenders through the use of the video cameras. And we're going to put their faces on our social media, and we're going to ask for the public to help us. And again, I think it's just we really need to make sure that the partnership with ABC is strong so that we're all on the same page, and bringing good cases to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office with video evidence, and really, you know, stressing how important it is for us to enforce those laws and hold people accountable who are stealing. But I don't know why it's picking up. I would say it's a valuable commodity. Some of them are just walking in and grabbing 2 bottles and just walking out, and we're seeing those same faces on the video surveillance time and time again. It's just a matter of identifying them. As far as the specifics on the officer-involved shooting, I will tell you that technology was involved, that we utilized that, and it did help us in our ability to bring that, to find that offender. So I don't want to be really specific about, you know, the specific type of technology, but to be frank, the proliferation of cameras and our license plate recognition technology, along with other things that we're using, is something our officers and investigators use in every case. Every case that's playing into it. So again, that's why I'm so excited that we're moving towards a real-time crime center, so we can really standardize that process. So it doesn't rely upon great officers and detectives getting on their city-issued cell phone and pulling up, you know, the cameras from their phone. It'll be a centralized location where we have a standard process and everything works the way it should. So. Yes, sir.
Just 2 quick ones. One, when you had the sort of the traffic incident statistics up earlier, one thing I was just curious about is, are we seeing any trends with crashes involving pedestrians being hit, that sort of thing? And then also just as far as the community walks that have already happened, what sort of attendance are you seeing for those?
Well, the walks, I'll start with the crashes. We are seeing bicyclists hit, pedestrians struck, and then also just crashes involving motorcycles versus vehicles and that sort of thing. So it runs the gambit. So it's all inclusive. We know that there's a place for pedestrians to be mindful of where they're walking. Some of that is, and I'm guilty of it too, with my earbuds in, I will cross a street and really not even pay much attention. I'm in my own world, and we see that with some people in ways that it didn't used to be. So we're seeing some pedestrians just stepping in front of cars to the point where we can't even charge the driver because the pedestrians have fallen. And I'm sorry, what was your other question about the?
Just what kind of attendance are you seeing at the community walks? How, you know, those that have already happened, how'd they go?
Great. So we're you know, some of you have been to some of them recently. I think we have a great, you know, it's the police department, but we also invite our other city partners. So we always have reps from the fire department, the Department of Emergency Communications, Richmond Ambulance Authority, and then our non-profit partners. So, you know, we always have probably 30 or 40 people. It's a group of folks walking and talking about crime and other social issues. So.
Regarding that March 31st officer-involved shooting, I know you talked about the use of technology and also transparency. So through that technology, we saw that on body-worn camera video, it appeared that the suspect actually fired at officers first. So I guess, why was that sort of not communicated as a reason for why officers ultimately fired their weapons? And I guess, how does that speak to the overall issue of transparency and maintaining that in the community?
Are you talking about the first press conference when I was on scene?
Yeah, yes, that March 31st. And I guess once the video was released, you know, subsequent questions or requests for questions.
Well, when I was first on scene, I did see on a phone that the video that was eventually released of the overall, and I wasn't comfortable. And I know we had people looking at the body camera. I wasn't comfortable saying that. And I've said this publicly before. It's important for me to be slow and right than quick and wrong. So I will err on the side of that. Once that video was released, and this is what I'll say about the crime briefing, again, I consulted experts from the Public Safety Partnership. This is a technique that major cities around the country are utilizing this to balance the need for the public to know, while at the same time can not jeopardize the ongoing investigation. So I think the video speaks for itself. For me to confirm things, I think would be inappropriate at this time. You know, before I released that video, I met with Mr. Talbert's family. I met with the involved officers. I met with Ms. McKeechan from the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. And I also met with stakeholders from the community to show them first, to say this is going to be surprising. It's not something we've done in the past except on very limited occasions. But I want to set that expectation up that the media within about 2 weeks can expect produced video like that, where I don't have to speak to it. I'm still in charge of investigators that are finalizing a report that they will present to the Commonwealth Attorney. I don't want to influence them, and then ultimately, once Ms. McEachin's office determines if a crime's been committed, it will come back to my office, where the Internal Affairs Division will conduct an internal investigation to see if any policies were violated. So I think it's best practice for me to be as transparent as possible, let the video speak for itself, and then when it's all said and done, maybe we can talk about it. But I just don't want to jeopardize the investigation.
Sure. Now, during your last quarterly crime briefing, you highlighted the use of license plate readers and firearm testing, so I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how that's going and how it's panned out over the past few months.
Well, as I said, we are utilizing license plate recognition every day for certainly violent crimes, but also for property crimes. So I think it's being ubiquitous. We are training our officers on it. It's very user friendly, and the remote access to video cameras and following up with that, we're utilizing that as well. So, and then every casing, every gun that we recover from the Richmond Police Department recovers, it's eligible to be put through NIBIN. So some guns aren't eligible for that, but every one that is, we're putting through there, and we're making connections on cases. And like I mentioned last time, I think some of the cases might not be strong, but if we get a quick turnaround and we realize that this murder, maybe we don't have a witness in this case, but 7 hours earlier there was a shooting in an occupied dwelling where we have video. It gives our detectives more leads, and it's just a way for us to be able to put the pieces together in a smart way.
And then lastly, I know we are early on in the process here, but what are the updates in terms of, I know you talked about filling the leadership roles for deputy chief. What's the latest update in terms of filling the chief of police role?
I think I've mentioned publicly that I've applied for the position, so I haven't heard back. So once I know when the interview is, if I'm selected to interview, I'll wear my shiny shoes and do my best.
Thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Man, next to that. Oh, and I'm the man.